Loving someone in a romantic context can be a roller coaster ride of emotions. Most of us want it, seek it, or hope love will find us. Whatever your definition of love, the feelings, the emotions, the smiles and tears, they're all the same, and they connect us in a very human way. I decided to try and document this connection of love and to capture it on film. I set up a camera, lights, a boom microphone, chairs, and signs that read, "Tell me a story," at the downtown square in Denton, Texas. I waited for people to approach me, and I told them that I was looking for people to tell me stories of love. I got a lot of people who sat in front of the camera to tell me these stories, but I felt that there was something special about speaking to couples. Their interviews, alongside a look into relationships with the UNT professor Kelly Roberts, whose expertise is in intimate partner relationships, I hope to have captured love in a candid way. The following speaks for itself, and I hope that you can see all of the emotions that were present during these interviews. My name is Lupe Zapata, and I feel so honored and privileged to have had the opportunity to capture love in this way. I hope you enjoy Tell Me a Story. So you were giving me your definition of love right before
Yes.
my camera died.
Okay, so to me, it's when someone else's happiness is tantamount to your own. It's when putting, their happiness before yours isn't a chore. It's just second nature. And just being in sync with each other. And if someone's having a bad day, you help them out, and then it's just they're having a good day and you're having a bad day. It just kind of evens out.
Depending on who you're talking to is how love is conceptualized. Whatever their backgrounds or cultural experiences are, they say this is love. And so if you talk to a certain person, they may say it's very emotional. It's all emotional based. It's processes, in your heart and your head and down inside your rib cage, and it's wrapped around, your spine, and it just encompasses all the insides and then spills over into the outside, and so it's very emotional. And then you can talk to someone else and they'll say, it's all biopsychosocial and evolutionary, and so they try to be scientific. Doubt most people could be completely scientific, but they will cite studies and they'll talk about what they learned on the latest news headline about the latest news research or something that they heard on NPR. And so, a lot of our society tries to be very cognitive, very cerebral, and so they try to cerebralify love, and that doesn't quite get it all the time either. Some people are very spiritual.
I think it starts out with it's a balance between two people. It's an active balancing out of each other. It's a certain kind of teamwork, I think, and it really is beautiful when you find it. It's patient, it's kind, it's great. And it's simple. It's easier than we think it is.
All of those areas have multiple studies, and so I could explain all of them to you, but I think just remembering that there's so many ways that people frame their language about love, then, that's why we have love as a topic that's probably the most prolific, around the world in songs and literature and documentaries, and so anyway, that's kind of how I talk about love, is how other people see it. Unfortunately, a lot of our society, especially the media piece that you're talking about, like what we see out there, what we see on TV and media and certainly social media, is built on some kind of unrealistic expectation. A lot of our society is strong because we believe that we could do things that people had not done before. But at the same time, the fairy tale, the unrealistic, and there are even measures in love for this, unrealistic expectation measures, because things are amazing or crazy good or unbelievable. We use, those kinds of adjectives to say what we wish. And so I think the colors of pink and red, the huge economic impact of Valentine's Day, and certainly on into like the whole wedding industry, is built a lot on this raising expectation level of I've got to beat that, I've got to beat that, I've got to beat that. And unfortunately, now we have this multimedia sharing of all of the unrealistic expectations. And so someone proposes and it's seen by 5 million people, and so then someone wants to beat that. And someone gets an engagement ring, and then social media talks about the size of the engagement ring. Or someone sees a movie, and so they start quoting the movie phrases in their dialogue with their romantic partner.
And no offense, but you're wrong. You're wrong about us being on different paths. We're not on different paths. You're my path. And you're always gonna be my path. And I know there's a million reasons why we shouldn't be together. I know that. But I'm tired of them.
We just saw that on Big Bang Theory, where finally Sheldon said something to Amy Farrah Fowler that was meaningful, and it was because he was quoting Spider-Man.
Sheldon, you either say something meaningful and from the heart, or you and I are done.
All right. Please. Amy, when I look in your eyes, and you're looking back in mine, everything feels not quite normal, because I feel stronger and weaker at the same time. I feel excited and at the same time terrified. The truth is, I don't know what I feel, except I know what kind of man I want to be.
Sheldon, that was beautiful.
I should hope so. That's from the first Spider-Man movie.
I'll take it.
Good.
So those kinds of nuances, they blend together, but at the same time they put in a great deal of pressure on people who just really would be a lot better off being normal, and starting off on normalcy, because when we get together as people, we have that unrealistic expectation pressure that we start setting. And so the reality is, once we start to filter our relationships, and it chips away, and we finally get the real self. But that real self is sometimes very different, than what we tried to show at first. It's a timeline process of someone who they find each other. And so the first stage would just be mate selection. And mate selection is really wonky these days because of social media. I mean, we have now apps that will say, like Tinder, these people are available in this area and they look like this and this is their age, and basic information, and all of a sudden you can just start walking around the room going, that's a possibility, that's not a possibility, these kinds of things.
Well, it all started with a slide into the DMs, literally.
What are DMs?
Direct messages. He slid into the DMs on Twitter.
Met him off of online and decided that we should meet up and hang out. Just happened to be Valentine's Day when we could finally get together and hang out.
I messaged her on OkCupid, which is a dating app. I don't know if you're familiar.
I saw her, and it was just like, yeah, I thought she was really pretty, and then so I was like, I might want to get to know her, and so I started talking to her, and as I talked to her more, I just liked her more and more.
That mate selection is a huge deal. So many factors feed into that, like for instance, geography. People that are around the sameness, like these are all university students here right now.
I just recently moved from Palm Springs, California, and all the people on the social networking there were like ridiculously old, like grandpa status. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm back in Denton. There's gonna be kids around my age because it's a college town. So I decided to start taking a look and see what was out there. Because I've met a few people on the social networking that the relationship actually worked out, and the longest stint I had with somebody from a social networking was 6 months, and I was pretty amazed by that. So yeah, and then he actually used it as a dating network, because a lot of people don't these days, and I was like, this kid has some class. I gotta check it out.
Similar ages, similar belief systems. They kind of look like they might have the same beliefs as me. They're wearing a t-shirt, you know, they like a band that I like, you know, like, dude, man, if they love that band, whoo, you know, we've got it going on together already in my head, you know.
Well, for one, she's a Styx fan, so that's always, it's always good. I don't know. When I met her, she's really sweet and easy to talk to. And I don't know, she just made me nervous, you know. I got like butterflies just like thinking about her. So I feel like that's one
mutual,
of you, I guess. Yeah.
mutual feeling.
You know, and then of course there's filtering parts. You know, we look at love like whether or not a person is like us.
I don't know. I thought he was cute, and I liked his personality because he was funny and kind of sarcastic too. And like he reminded me of a boy version of myself.
We see the ideal, the ego ideal of who we want to be or who we believe that we need to be with. So it's called a narcissistic love, because we see ourselves, you know, and this is actually proofed out in a research that just finished last year, because in the dating websites, you know, in 2014 I learned that the dating industry on the websites raked in $2 billion. So, you know, that's a lot of data. So they scooped up all of that data and said, who is searching for whom with what qualities? And by and large, the basic findings were exactly the same thing. We're looking for ourselves.
I work in a very small, tiny office and don't get to meet very many people. So the only way that I meet people are generally through hanging out with a Christian group on campus, and hard to find very many LGBT people there, even though we have an LGBT Bible study now that I lead. But it's, you know, it's hard to find somebody near my age because I'm 26, or about to turn 26.
When's your
and
birthday?
It would, the end of the month on the 28th.
Okay. Oh yeah,
so
that's
2
right.
weeks away. But so it's, you know, I have to use the social networking to try to meet people that are my age and of my interests and stuff.
It's just the new age way, kind of.
Yeah.
When people are in those first stages of love, they can't think, they can't focus on their jobs. All they can think about is their relationships, and they get distracted. You know, they'll be trying to focus, trying to maybe like here study on a test, and all they start doing is going, I wonder what they're doing. And so basically they call each other and like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you too. Okay, bye. You know, and it's just this constant checking in and constant validation of, I'm still secure with you. You know, we're still safe together. We still have that passion, you know, and so lots and lots of checking in, lots of communication.
I don't think we're at that point yet, but I don't know if we're there yet.
Well, that has been something I've worked on for a really long time, because when I was little, I really hated how people so loosely threw around the term love. Like, I so love those pair of shoes. Oh, I love that cloud. Like, yeah, I like those things, but I don't love them. So it's been something that I've searched after for a really long time.
What is that? I mean, the thing is, tell me a story. So tell me a story about why that is an issue.
No, yeah, totally. And we definitely talked about this because she went to like this concert, and And she was like, gosh, it was like a One Direction concert. She's like, I love them. And like, it made me think like, you know, we've never said that to each other. So then I was like, hey, it's kind of weird that you said that to them. And then that kind of sparked the conversation of like, well, what does it mean? You know, like what is love or whatever? And so, and you know, it's definitely, everyone has a different definition of love.
Well, you know, if we were having this conversation in the 1800s or 1900s, this would be a totally different set of ideas. We would be not talking about saying I love you. We wouldn't be talking about, you know, endorphins or anything like that. What we'd be talking about are permissions and acceptance of parents. And, you know, when I finally, you know, got to sit with you on the porch or courting. And so there's a really big different set of constructs. You know, the saying I love you has been memorialized in our movies, in our sitcoms.
I've been doing a lot of thinking, and the thing is, I love you.
You are the epitome of everything I have ever looked for in another human being.
Love is too weak a word for I love you. You know, I loathe you. I love you.
I sort of feel like I'm on drugs when I'm with you. Not that I do drugs, unless you do drugs, in which case I do drugs all the time.
There's only one place in the world I call home, and it's because you're there.
I'd feel better sitting outside your apartment on the curb than any other place I can think of or imagine.
I'm not waking up another morning without being able to look at you next to me.
I would rather share one lifetime with you than face all the ages of this world alone.
Can't you see what I'm trying to tell you? I love you.
Very much. No other love but you.
I love you.
Like a sickness and its cure together.
I love you.
Ditto.
I should have told you every day from the moment I met you.
You complete me.
Te adoro, Maria.
I love you, chicken.
I love you, honey bunny. I think that's the only thing I've ever been really sure of in my entire life.
I think we basically just came to the conclusion that we think love is like a promise, you know? It's a promise that you have to keep. It's a promise that you will be by their side all the time, and no matter what, and you know, sickness or in health or whatever. So I think, you know, while we're dating, I don't think we should say that to each other until, you know, I ask her to marry me or whatever. Because that, I think engaging is like, is pretty much saying like, I love you and I promise that I will carry out all of these things, and I promise that I'll be by your side no matter what, you know? So I think, so I figured out like, you know, if the day comes and I do end up, you know, proposing to Sydney, then I think that's when I'll actually tell her.
Basically, when you say you love someone, you're saying I'm committed and I'm ruling out other options, you know. And so saying you love, it's a hugely vulnerable time, and if you say it, then you have to wonder if you're going to be reciprocated. If you say it, will it freak the other person out? Will they join you and say, I was going to say it first? You know, those kinds of things. And so they have a lot banked in on this saying I love you, but I think it's because that's part of the DTR, the defining the relationship.
I think, well, I always thought courting, whenever I heard the word courting, I thought of like the Duggars and like no holding hands until you're engaged. So I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm holding his hand, I'm going to kiss him, all this stuff. And then I think like we had the same question. I was like, what's the difference? And then we looked up like the definition of courting and the difference from dating. And I guess like all the people we were with before, we were just dating. Like we were just like, oh, I like you. Like, let's date, let's hang out, let's be a title and stupid stuff like that. And I thought that like that's what dating was supposed to be until I was with Austin, and then I was like, whoa, there's this thing that's courting, and that's what I'm doing with him, and it's so much better than dating. Because dating is just like, there's not as much, I don't know, I feel like purpose to it, but yeah, it's just like being with the person that you can actually see potential in marriage with. I forgot the question, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm just defining courting, but I don't know if that was the question.
That's basically, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We are courting, then, yes.
Sure, yeah. I guess you could call it courting.
Yeah, that always just reminds me of the Duggars, though. And so
but not a weird conservative, like, courting.
No, but just, like,
we just have purpose with our dating instead of just playing having fun, and, like,
getting
not having
to
a
know
purpose.
Someone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we have a purpose, and if, you know, one day it's revealed to us that, you know, we're not for each other, then we'll be like, all right, like, this isn't for us, but so we shouldn't date unless we're gonna
like
think about marriage.
The month before you asked me to be your girlfriend, we hung out for like a good month before he actually asked me to be his girlfriend. So that was dating.
I guess that was dating.
That was like the getting to know process. Like, hey, let's go here, let's have dinner here, let's just like get to know each other better. And then once we were like, I like what I see, I like what I know about this person, then we were like, okay, let's be boyfriend and girlfriend, which is now where we are with courting, I guess. It's not just getting to know anymore. It's like, all right, let's grow together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys love each other?
Very much so.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Yes. It was love at first sight.
How? Tell me a story.
I don't know. It's just when we met, it was just, I knew he was the one. We were destined to be. Just felt it in my heart.
When it does flow, it's pretty easy to maintain. I mean, we have arguments and stuff like that, but you know, they don't really affect how we feel about each other in the long run.
The conversation doesn't end there.
Yeah, like we don't stop and say, well, I hate you, and then like storm off in opposite directions. It's like, well, okay, let's talk about it, and then we'll work through it, and then after that, we still love each other. We might love each other even more now that we worked through something.
What I hope that couples will do, you know, when they see this, or when they try to decide whether or not they be vulnerable, whether they decide to work through this or that aspect that's really bothering them, is that the reward is so sweet, because you don't worry about things anymore. You feel completely secure in yourself, your interdependence of each other, and it is a wonderful place to be. It's not experienced a lot, and it makes me sad when I see so many people still in those first few stages, or recycling over and over these first few stages.
I was at a time in my life where I wasn't ready for a relationship, and it's kind of funny because when we first met, we met at a party, and we spoke with each other for a little, and we kind of lost contact. I never saw her again until a year later, and a year later we hooked back up. That's when she really actually fell in love. And I think it was because the way I was with her older daughter. And I guess me at the time wasn't ready for that. And we just let bygones be bygones. And I think 3 years later we hooked back up again. And we've been with each other ever since.
When did you first know that you loved her, that she was the one that you wanted to be with?
When I came back into her life. When I came back into her life, she was all that I wanted.
I guess for me, like, I'd been having a really tough day at work, and just a really tough time getting myself organized. So Nick has really stepped up one day and just helped me get my stuff together. Quite literally. I was a mess before she came along. And now I feel like I have a better hold on life.
I was real sick. I had surgery and everything, and I couldn't get out of bed or anything, and just the way he took care of me and made sure that I was okay. I didn't have to worry about the kids or anything. Just the way he attended to me and let me get the rest that I needed after surgery and everything. I was like, wow, that's just awesome, knowing that I'm being taken care of and I can't do nothing in return at that moment. I was like, yeah, that's my man. That's my man. Nobody else's but mine.
He is just so considerate. You know, he makes me coffee every morning and just does little things to make sure that I feel happy and safe and loved. And it's just, you know, it's so comforting, and it just makes me feel appreciated, and, you know, like I could do this for the rest of my life kind of thing. Like, just the little things.
it dawned on me like, man, this is the one. This is my baby boo. And I don't want to lose that. It's priceless, man. You know what I'm saying? To be comfortable with that one person. Don't have to hide nothing. Don't have to be ashamed of nothing. She accepts you for who you are and what you are, or how you are. And I think that's what matures the love and increases it.
So I'm gonna ask you what I've asked tons of people before.
Okay.
But can you tell me a time in your life that you felt very loved by somebody? Or someone? What has somebody done? Just a moment in time where you could just...
I'm gonna cry. How many people cry over this? Yeah, I'll try to get through it. We'll see, okay? So I told you that I've been married for almost 30 years. And at one point, we weren't really very loving to each other, neither one of us. In this growing back together, because there was this slow growth process that my husband and I experienced. My children were both small, and I remember I was actually a speech, drama, and debate teacher, and I was unloading all of the set construction, and that's a bear of a job. It's just heavy, it takes all day long, and I just remember feeling so physically worn out that I told the kids something. I mean, they're young, maybe 7, 8, 10. I said, you guys, you're gonna have to make your own dinner. For me to tell my young children that means I was at my limit. And I remember laying down on my bed in the bedroom, and I was sore, I was so sore, and I was just listening. All I wanted to do was hear that Mick had come home so that he could rub my shoulders, so that I could get uncricked, so that I could go back and finish the job. And I finally heard the pickup get home, and I'm just like, no, I don't even feel like I could call his name out. I'm just exhausted. And finally, he comes back in the bedroom because he's looking for me, and I said, if you could just take 10 minutes, please, and rub my shoulders, I just need to go out and finish. And okay, he said, okay. And he was kind of quiet about it. And so he leans over, and he knew just where to grab me because I've got this tight muscles right here that he knows always, and his arms are shaking. And I didn't understand why his arms were shaking. And he goes, I asked him, I said, why are your arms shaking? And he said, well, I started at 4 this morning, and I realized he had just had like a 13-hour day. And he said we had to move this whole entire section of the warehouse. He had been physically lifting thousands of pounds of things. He came home and he was exhausted, but he did it anyway. So that was sweet. And I knew he loved me.